The dot-com bubble is inflating to a blinding, unsustainable glare across Wall Street. But in Europe, a single company commands a gravity so absolute it feels eternal. From a forested stretch along the banks of the Nokian Virta River in Finland, originating humbly as a wood pulp mill in 1865, has risen an empire of connection. Its name is Nokia. At its peak, Nokia accounts for an astounding 4% of Finland's entire gross domestic product. It drives nearly 25% of the nation's total exports. Its corporate taxes single-handedly fund municipal budgets, public schools, and healthcare systems across the Nordic region. In the stock markets of Helsinki, New York, and Frankfurt, Nokia isn't just a security. It is the undisputed king of European finance. At its zenith, its market capitalization brushes past 203 billion euros. Walk down any street in Manhattan, Tokyo, London, or Mumbai, and you will hear the iconic Nokia tune trilling from a pocket. 1 out of every 2 mobile phones sold on planet Earth bears the 4-letter logo. The Nokia 3310 is practically indestructible, its battery life defying the laws of consumer electronics. The executives in Espoo, Finland sit comfortably on a titanium throne. They believe they have solved the code of human communication. They are spending vast fortunes on research and development, outspending many of their future rivals. Their balance sheets overflow with liquid capital. Debt is a foreign concept. To bet against Nokia is to bet against the sun rising in the east. Yet, inside the corporate machinery, the rot is already setting in. Bureaucracy balloons. Middle management builds defensive walls to protect internal fiefdoms. The software platform that powered their dominance, Symbian, becomes a sluggish, bloated monolith. Engineers know it is broken. Executives refuse to listen. They look at sleek, capacitive glass screens and dismiss them as fragile toys that will never capture the rugged practicality of the global market. They are looking backward while the tectonic plates of global technology shift beneath their feet. By July 18, 2012, the throne has vanished. Nokia's stock price collapses down to a desolate 1.33 euros per share. In a breathtaking evaporation of wealth, the company loses 98% of its market value. Operating losses pile up past billions of dollars in quarters that bleed red. Pension funds take massive hits. Retail investors are wiped out. The financial press writes corporate obituaries across front pages worldwide. The undisputed titan of Europe is bankrupt in spirit, gasping for air and bracing for total annihilation. Chapter 2. Anatomy of a Collapse. The Middle. The Financial Bleed. How does a multi-billion-dollar juggernaut fall off a cliff so swiftly? To understand Nokia's financial ruin, you have to look past simple cliches about Apple and Android. The true story is written in cash flows, structural inertia, and strategic paralysis. In the mid-2000s, Nokia's financial metrics looked pristine on the surface. Operating margins were high, free cash flow was steady. But a deeper dive into capital allocation revealed a fatal flaw: inability to transition from a hardware-first mindset to a platform ecosystem. When Apple introduced the iPhone in 2007 and Google unleashed Android, they didn't just launch new products, they introduced an entirely new economic model. They created app ecosystems where value migrated from the physical device to the software layer. Nokia's leadership suffered from what economists call the success trap. Because Symbian had generated tens of billions of euros in past profits, management poured more capital into patching an obsolete architecture rather than writing it off. It was the ultimate sunk cost fallacy executed on a macro-industrial scale. Every euro spent trying to optimize Symbian for touchscreens was throwing good money after bad. By 2009, Nokia posted its first quarterly loss since 1996. Panic gripped the boardroom. In a desperate bid to buy relevance, Nokia executed one of the most controversial strategic pivots in corporate history. They brought in Stephen Elop, a former Microsoft executive who famously penned the Burning Platform memo, describing Nokia standing on a burning oil rig with only two choices: burn or jump into freezing waters. The jump was a leap into the abyss. Nokia hitched its entire future to Microsoft's Windows Phone operating system, effectively cutting its own safety lines to Google's burgeoning Android ecosystem. It was a catastrophic miscalculation. Market share didn't stabilize, it accelerated. By 2009, the bleeding became unsustainable. Nokia's board faced a stark reality. Liquidity was drying up, and the burn rate threatened to drag the entire corporate entity into insolvency. The decision was made to execute a surgical amputation. Nokia sold its crown jewel, its entire mobile phone division, to Microsoft for a paltry $7.2 billion. For a company that once commanded hundreds of billions in market value, selling the hardware business that made its name a household word felt like selling the family farm for spare change. Weep told Finland. Scoffed Wall Street. Left behind was a skeletal corporate shell consisting of a struggling network infrastructure joint venture, Nokia Siemens Networks, a digital mapping unit, HERE, and a legacy patent portfolio. The financial community wrote Nokia off as a historical footnote, a cautionary tale taught in business schools about the dangers of arrogance and technological myopia. Chapter 3. The Phoenix Strategy, the Pivot and Rebuild. What happens when you strip a fallen giant down to its bare structural studs? Most companies in this position liquidate, pay off creditors, and fade into corporate history. But Nokia's remaining leadership, under the guidance of Risto Siilasmaa and Rajiv Suri, executed a clinical, cold-blooded financial restructuring that ranks among the most brilliant turnarounds in European corporate history. First, they stopped the cash bleed. They monetized assets ruthlessly. They sold the HERE mapping business to a consortium of German automotive giants, Audi, BMW, and Daimler, for 2.8 billion euros, injecting heavy liquidity back into the balance sheet. Second, they pivoted entirely away from the volatile, low-margin consumer handset market and looked up towards the invisible infrastructure that powers the modern world, telecom networks. While the world was obsessed with smartphones, Nokia quietly bought out its partner Siemens in their networking joint venture, and then engineered a massive, bold acquisition of French telecom rival Alcatel-Lucent for 15.6 billion euros. To Wall Street analysts, the move looked terrifyingly risky, doubling down on capital-intensive telecom hardware just as global carriers were finishing their 4G rollouts and digesting massive debt loads. But Nokia's executive team was playing a multi-step chess game. They weren't just selling cell towers, they were securing the patents, the R&D talent, and the backbone architecture required for the next generation of global connectivity, 5G and beyond. They transformed Nokia into an intellectual property powerhouse and a global titan of network infrastructure. They held tens of thousands of essential patent families covering cellular standards. Every time an Apple, a Samsung, or a Chinese smartphone manufacturer shipped a device anywhere in the world, they had to pay licensing tolls directly to Nokia's treasury. Operating margins stabilized. Free cash flow turned positive. The balance sheet went from distressed debt to net cash positive. Slowly, methodically, institutional investors began to notice. The enterprise value climbed back from the abyss, multiplying many-fold from its 2012 lows. Chapter 4. The NVIDIA Bet and the Climax, the Resurgence. Fast forward to the present. The financial landscape of global technology is dominated by a new, relentless obsession: artificial intelligence. The AI boom requires unprecedented computational power, data center density, and ultra-low latency data transport. Traditional telecom networks are no longer just pipes for voice and video. They are the central nervous systems of autonomous machinery, industrial automation, cloud computing, and massive AI workloads. And who controls the critical optical networking, private 5G enterprise grids, and routing infrastructure that connects these hyperscale AI clusters? Nokia. The market suddenly realizes that the boring, unsexy infrastructure company it dismissed a decade ago is actually the foundational toll booth for the entire industrial AI hardware stack. Then comes the ultimate validation. In a landmark strategic shift that sends shockwaves through global markets, tech titan NVIDIA, the undisputed monarch of the AI chip revolution, steps forward and executes a $1 billion strategic investment and partnership with Nokia. Jensen Huang's empire doesn't partner with a failing relic, they lock arms with a rebuilt structural titan. The partnership aims to merge NVIDIA's accelerated computing